Now, let's get into that first big story. And I'm going to start with this tweet from Ryan James Gerdusky. He says, Georgia GOP primary turnout by year. In 2018, 608,380. In 2022, 1,109,506. That is almost double. So as I mentioned in the intro to this show, for those that didn't see it, there's a lot of ways you can accomplish that. You know, I was saying like destroying the economy is one of those ways. I think that certainly shocked a bunch of people. $5 a gallon gasoline is going to get a lot of people to the polls. But I also think it's going to get a lot of Democrats to switch, and that's a contributing factor. Check this out. From the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, data shows thousands of Democrats voting in GOP primary. They say 7% of Georgia voters who cast a GOP ballot previously pulled a Democratic ballot 2 years ago. If that's true, and you actually go down and look at the Democrat numbers, it looks like Democrats dropped by about 7%. Republicans jumped by about 7%. So it looks like Democrats may have dropped anywhere from 7 to 10%. Republicans jumped 7%.
Well, they're trying to say that that's some ploy by the Democrats to get the candidates that they want and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's nonsense. It's nonsense. The thing that really matters about this, that, you know, I live in Los Angeles, California, and people are going to be liberal there until the world ends. It's going to be an apocalyptic leftist nightmare forever. And so what I think is important is that it's about the children. I think that this is the most about the schools, what's happening with the transgender movement and what's happening with our education system. I think we saw what happened in Virginia, and I think that if we continue on the path as conservatives, hammering on education, then we're going to be able to continue to switch voters. You switch independent voters, you switch Democrat voters over to Republican, and if you have Republicans who come out and say, listen, my number one priority is education. My number one priority is your kids, because the left thinks that the schools own your kids. The parents shouldn't have a say in your kids' lives. If conservatives and Republicans keep pushing on that, then you will win. You will switch people over.
I think might have been James Lindsay who said this, that the Democrats are turning parents into a voting bloc.
Yeah.
That's just crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm speaking at all these rallies, all these different things, especially again in California, you know, whether they're COVID rallies or education rallies. And I've said this 1,000 times before, this is a revolution of normal people. Like, these people who come to these rallies, they're not the people who are going to the 2016 Trump rallies, you know, MAGA and their hats on and everything with Confederate flags. These are parents who just said, I'm fed up with this nonsense. I want to change my community.
That was true in 2016.
Yeah.
I went to a bunch of these Trump rallies. I've talked about it tons of times, where the people I met were like, I'm not a Republican. I've never voted Republican. Yeah. I remember I was in Fort Lauderdale and I was talking to some middle-aged woman, and she was so excited. She had her kids and they were about to watch Trump speak. And so I was just asking people covering the rally, like, what's your position? You know, are you a Republican? She's like, oh, no, I've never voted before. She's like,
wow.
No one's ever spoken to me the way Trump has when talking about these issues that affect my community. And I was like, wow. So we saw that. We saw Trump lit up areas that just people wouldn't turn out for.
Right.
And at the same time, the Democratic Party, I mean, they basically immolated when they ruined Bernie Sanders in 2016 with the Hillary Clinton DNC scandal, where they colluded essentially when the emails came out you could find to keep him from getting the nomination. And then again in 2020, when it looked like Bernie Sanders was hot, and then all of a sudden Biden appears out of nowhere, and they put this near demented guy, this 79-year-old man or 78-year-old man into office. I have my faith in that, in the leadership of that party is gone compared to where it was 15, 20 years ago. And you made a good point about education. That was what I thought at the top of the show when Tim was leading us in. I think that's a big part of this, is the education, is that kids have been getting put in these government facilities and without oversight are being indoctrinated essentially. And people have had it.
Yeah, I mean, they should put cameras in all the classrooms.
Mm-hmm. The numbers doubling. I mean, that's crazy. It's almost doubling the amount of GOP turnout. That's crazy.
Isn't it a lot COVID as well? I mean, the way that they handled all the COVID restrictions, that normal people who wouldn't say, oh, I'm necessarily Republican, are fed up with the way that they handled that. I mean, that goes beyond politics as well.
Mm-hmm. I really do just think all of those things are an issue, but the economy. Yeah. It's the economy, stupid, is the famous quote.
Well, they did polls on it, yeah. They show the jobs and the economy. I mean, I hope that MSNBC just keeps talking about January 6th and insurrection and all those kind of things, because it doesn't mean anything to people.